Hello, everybody, and welcome to Let the Truth Speak, where we cover all kinds of news surrounding the Kroger-owned grocery chain King Soopers right here in the state of Colorado. So, welcome back to the show. We have a pretty big special report here tonight, and let me tell you, there's a lot to talk about. A lot of stuff has been happening. A lot of stuff has been stated, a lot of letters to go over, press releases, news articles going on. Even Facebook was popping off a little bit. There's just been so much stuff happening that I just had to sit down and make a special report to cover everything that's been going on. There's been a lot of activity over the past couple days. It's wild, and we're going to go over all of it in this special report. So we're going to start with the strike announcement that was announced back on the 3rd, so 2 days ago. So yeah, let me pull this up real quick. Here we go. Yeah, so this was on the 3rd. So we're going to start with this this strike announcement here. Let's zoom in here. And in fact, you know what? I'm going to take my face off. All right. So let's go over this real quick. So this was back on February 3rd. So King Soopers members to strike. Dear sisters and brothers working at King Soopers and City Market, over the past week, union members from across Colorado resoundingly told King Soopers and City Market that they were fed up with the company's unfair labor practices and authorized an unfair labor practice strike. Members in Boulder, Broomfield, Colorado Springs, Metro Denver, Parker, and Pueblo are ready to fight back. Now, I want to say real quick that I believe Colorado Springs and Pueblo have not announced, those two places in particular, they have not announced when the strike will start yet, but they did do the votes for those already. And they were really high. They were really, really high. Just as I suspected, Colorado Springs absolutely voted yes. There were quite a few 100% actually in both of those. We're not going to go over the percentages for those two. There are posters for it, but we're not going to go over that for those two areas. At this point, I think I don't think it's necessary because there's a bunch of other more crazy stuff to go over. But anyways, let's continue. With over 96% of members voting to authorize a strike. Which is true. Over the weekend, the union received notification that the UFCW International Union has granted sanction for a strike by local 7 members. Wow. Damn, I actually didn't know that. So the international, so the nationwide, main office, I guess you could say, of UFCW, also granted the strike. That's crazy. And we're going to go over here a little bit later why that is crazy, because and why that kind of doesn't surprise me, because there's a lot of stuff that's happened. But let's continue here. Members have had enough of King Soopers and City Market's numerous unfair labor practices. Please click this link to review all of the company's ULPs. Oh, that's interesting. I may have to go, if it hasn't been clear yet, a lot of the stuff that we're going to go over in the special report, I have not reviewed. Some of this stuff I have not reviewed yet, mainly the letters. I have not read all of the letters that have come out. So I've read some of the news articles we're going to go over, but I have, for the most part, most of what we're going to go over in this report, I have not even read. So this is new information for me too. So you're seeing my reaction live here. I may have to go over that link, and we may make a separate report about that. We may make a separate video about that in the future. But let's continue. Today, I am announcing that members in 77 stores spread throughout Boulder, Broomfield, Metro Denver, and Parker will commence a 2-week unfair labor practice strike starting at 5 a.m. on Thursday, February 6, 2025. Now that part I did know. So it is official. Those areas that they listed will be going on strike tomorrow, as of the recording of this video, tomorrow at 5 a.m. And yes, I will be out there, guys. I will be out there. Expect to see me. But I'll get into details about that at the end of this report. But yes, I will be out there. Let's continue. A union representative will establish a picket line in front of your store at 5 a.m., at which time UFCW Local 7 members working inside of the store should cease working and join the picket line outside. I've talked about this in a previous video, and yes, that is true. As soon as that representative shows up, and as soon as they tell you to clock out immediately and walk out with everybody else, walk out. And let me add real quick that it is one of the most satisfying things I've experienced in my life is walking out of a company, and especially in front of the people that I don't like. It's quite satisfying. It really is. It's definitely a very, I had to really refrain from smiling the entire time that I was walked out of the store back in 2022. It was quite the feeling, I have to admit. Not saying that you shouldn't smile. By all means, you could probably smile. You can probably laugh. But you could do whatever you want. But it is quite the feeling. But let's let's continue here. Superstore, blah, 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 pocket. Okay, where was I? Here we go. Okay. A text message with a link with your picket schedule will be sent to you prior to Thursday morning. So it sounds like everybody should be getting that type of information probably today. At minimum. Or at the latest, I should say. You may also get your schedule from your picket line captain, who will be at your store. That's good. We will grow the list of stores on strike over the length of the 2-week strike. So even if your store is not going on strike Thursday, like Colorado Springs, Pueblo, it could be going on strike in the coming days, including for members in Colorado Springs and Pueblo, as I just said. All right. True to its union busting playbook, Kroger has hired a temporary staffing service to fly in workers from out of state, primarily from the southeastern U.S. Wow. I don't know if they did that in the last strike, but that's crazy. So what, Kings? You could you mean to, Joe? You mean to tell me that you can't even find temporary workers here in the state of Colorado? You have to fly them from different states? Oh, shit. Wow. And is paying for hotel rooms and per diem for these workers to scab in your stores. Good God, that's wild if that's true. This shameful practice is an attempt to undercut your leverage during a strike, but the union has no idea whether these workers are felons or otherwise safe to work around. Of course, they don't know that here either. We covered this in a previous video. They don't know that here either because they're playing loosely with the whole criminal background and having inconsistent policies around that. So it's like, but that's crazy. That's crazy. Wow. Wow, paying for their hotel rooms as well. One thing we do know Kroger's providing these workers with far more shoulder-to-shoulder training than they provide a new hire who works with you in your stores. Really? Because as far as I know, the temporary workers that they got in the last strike did not go through extensive training, as far as I know. So you mean to tell me this time around they are training the temporary workers? Are you serious? Oh, that's just disrespectful. Oh my God. We also know that the scabs from out of state are being paid more than what they are offering King Soopers and City Market associates. You know, again, I don't know if that's true, but again, I would not be surprised, because if I remember correctly, that's exactly how it was like last strike. It's exactly how it was like last strike, and that's a goddamn shame. Meanwhile, the union is also preparing for potential strike votes in Grand Junction, for City Market workers, along with Fort Collins, Greeley, Longmont, and Loveland for King Soopers workers in those areas. Contracts in some of these areas, Grand Junction, expire January 25th. Remain in effect through February 15th, and no strike has been called in these areas for now. Got it. Please encourage your family, friends, and neighbors to transfer their prescriptions to Safeway or another pharmacy in the UMR or UHC network during this dispute. Yes, and I've said this myself too in previous videos, but if you can help it, go somewhere else. But if you cannot, this is important to note, and I wish this was in the letter, but that's okay. If you cannot do that and not willing to do that, and or for whatever reason, for any reason, if you continue to shop at King's, I get it, and a lot of us get it too. At UFCW, based on the experience that I've had last strike, we don't judge anybody, okay? We don't get angry at people and force people to not go into King Soopers. That's not how these things work. We are not a violent group. We never have been. We never will be, okay? We are peacefully protesting, which is ironic to say, but more accurately to say we are peacefully striking, okay, for our rights and against these really illegal and unlawful and just plain immoral and stupid, unfair labor practices, okay? So we've never been the type of people to do that. So, we get it. Hey, if you have to go in, we get it. We get it. But if you can help it, go somewhere else. That's all we're asking. That's all we're asking. Stand together, stay strong. United, we can get the company to stop its unfair labor practices and negotiate a fair contract that reflects the incredible value you bring to your company and a contract you deserve. That is that for this letter. And let me tell you something. There is, real quick, let's bring my face back here. There is something to be said about this. It is important to understand that during disputes like this and during strikes like this, it's important to understand, as I've stated, and the whole reason why this channel exists, to really understand what's happening, getting the full picture, getting the background information, hearing out all sides. It is really important. It is really important. And the whole, asking for people to go somewhere else, that, I know it's hard. I know it's really hard, but it needs to be stated that the reason why that's so important is because you're feeding the beast. You're feeding the beast that the whole point of this thing, it's not, you're only feeding them. You're not feeding the other side. You're not, it's only being one-sided here. And not to mention, they're going to take advantage of it. They're going to try to manipulate you, and they're going to try to feed you false information, misinformation, manipulated information, corrupt information, all the while, you're being served and serviced by temporary workers, apparently, from out of state that aren't even Colorado citizens. So, you know, it needs to be stated. It really does. But quick takeaways from that, though. I called it. I told you this was going to be a big strike. You could feel it. I could feel it. This was going to be a way bigger strike than the last one. And not only the numbers have proved it, but this letter right here, it literally, they have announced it's going to be 2 weeks. So I knew it. This is going to be an even longer strike than the last strike was, because the last strike was only 9-10 days. This one's going to be a solid 2 weeks, 14 days. It's crazy that it's going to go that long. And wow, we're really going to stick it to them. The next thing I want to go over, because speaking of it being huge, there is a lot of other things happening. So there's been a lot of reports that I've been hearing, a lot of whispers and murmurs about other strikes happening, not just here in the state of Colorado, but across the country. There's particularly, within the UFCW, within UFCW and what companies UFCW covers. But still, there's a lot more other things happening even outside of the state of Colorado. And there is a letter that the union received yesterday on the 4th, actually. And a union member, I don't know if it was Kim herself or somebody else, took a picture of it and posted it. And I want to go over it real quick. If I can bring it up real quick. Here we go. Sorry, didn't mean to do that. Here we go. All right, so let's zoom in. Let's take a look at this. So, for immediate release. So apparently this is coming out of UFCW local 1564. Now this branch is based in New Mexico. Okay, so this comes from Greg Frazier, which is the president of 1564 out there in New Mexico. So let's go over this. This was yesterday. Solidarity with UFCW Local 7R. UFCW Local 1564 of New Mexico stands in solidarity with our sister UFCW Local 7R in Colorado as they take on corporate greed by holding a 14-day ULP unfair labor practice strike at King Soopers and City Market. Their fight is our fight, as New Mexico is set to begin bargaining with Kroger later this year. We know Kroger needs to be reminded that the UFCW is union strong, and we fight and stand together. An injury to one is an injury to another, and that is just the mindset that we need, especially nowadays in today's society with a bunch of corruption and corporate greed going on throughout the country, not just here in Colorado. To show our commitment, we will be sending union reps and financial assistance to Colorado to help support our union, our sister union, and the striking workers. That is amazing. President Cordova has always stood and fought for New Mexico workers. Kroger's hiding behind a raise that mostly goes to top-rated employees that robs the health of the pension and health funds. Absolutely they are. In solidarity, Greg Frazier, President UFCW 1564. That is wild. That's cool, man. That's really cool. So they're getting the first support already. Strike hasn't even started yet. And they're already getting financial assistance, financial support. I talked about this. I told you guys, like, there's a chance that stuff like this is going to happen this strike around, but I think there's going to be a lot more support. There's going to be way more support. I think so. And even though this is still UFCW insider support, I still think there might be other stuff happening because we saw it last strike, okay, and like I mentioned before in a previous video, there's a lot of tension, okay. There's a lot of tension. There's a lot of dissatisfaction, anger, frustration. There, a lot of this stuff is coming up a lot more than it used to be, which is a good thing. But it's a double-edged sword because there's also the violent and aggressive side of it, and you're going to be seeing a lot of that from people who are going to be angry at you for striking. They're going to be frustrated because, it's going to inconvenience them. And I've already made a long rant statement about that. Refer to that because my stance on that hasn't changed. So let's go through something else that I saw regarding this topic. It's actually a video. This is also interesting. This is also quite interesting, actually. So let's bring this up here. This is coming out of UFCW 3000. And apparently they had this to say. So let's go over this real quick.
Hey everyone, I'm UFCW 3000 President Faye Gunther.
And I'm UFCW 3000 Secretary Treasurer Joe Mizrahi.
I feel like something big is happening.
You know what, Faye? I feel it too.
Just last year, more than 100,000 grocery store workers banded together to defeat a massive merger between Kroger and Albertsons that would have slashed workers' pay, closed stores, and gutted communities.
And as we speak, workers in Colorado are gearing up for a potential huge strike against Kroger.
And just this week, workers in Philadelphia voted to form the first union at Amazon's Whole Foods to fight for better wages and safer stores.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, doesn't it? Right here in the Pacific Northwest, more than 23,000 grocery workers in our union are entering into negotiations with Kroger and Albertsons.
And just like those workers in Philly and elsewhere, our checkers, baggers, meat cutters, and cheesemongers are demanding better staffing, better wages, and safer stores.
If you work for a union store or love someone who does,
and that should include most people who buy food,
then follow our story as we fight for a fair contract.
And if you're a worker looking to organize your store, then get in touch with us and join the fight.
Because when we fight,
we win.
So there you have it. Yeah, that was coming from UFCW 3000. So, I mean, this plays right into the topic that we're talking about here. There are other UFCs that are going on either into negotiations with Kroger or maybe even going, potentially holding strike votes against Kroger as well. So it's not just Colorado. It's happening everywhere, quite frankly. It's happening everywhere. Because contracts are ending with the union all over the place, not just here in Colorado. So this really, shows it. What this was that, for context, from my understanding, Local 7 is standing in here in Colorado. They're standing in solidarity with UFCW 3000 as they out there go into negotiations and fight, and fighting for their rights against Kroger as well. So we're being supported by New Mexico, and in turn we support them, but we're also supporting, 3000 as well. So there you have it on that. There are other reports too that are happening strike wise. I've heard rumblings that Western Union, which the bank, I believe, they're also potentially about to go on strike. I have not confirmed this, but I've just been hearing some rumors that they actually might be going on strike, and I believe that's here in Colorado. I've heard that there's some stuff with Amazon that happened recently. They went on strike. From what I've heard, I haven't confirmed this, but they went on strike apparently, and I hear that there was some kind of settlement that happened there, but I don't know. Like, again, this is unconfirmed information. These are just rumblings that I've heard. I don't know. Who knows? They could still be going. Maybe that didn't happen at all. But as far as I know, from what I've heard from multiple sources, Amazon went on strike too. Of course, the Whole Foods thing is happening. Amazon's Whole Foods. I've already covered that. UFCW is covering. They're fighting for their rights over there in Whole Foods. I've also heard that there potentially might be another strike for a couple other companies as well. I forgot what they were, and I don't remember if they were here in the state of Colorado. But there's a lot, like, this is what I was talking about before. There's lots of dissatisfaction, and I'm telling you, it's really one of the biggest things that plays into it is the economy. is the economy, and all of these companies, not just here in Colorado, but all these damn companies across the nation are not properly adjusting to the cost of living. And I get it. There's a lot other, business politics that plays into potentially why corporations can't just adjust to it, because they have to keep in mind their own profit margins. They have to keep in mind their sales. They have to keep in mind their costs, because they do have to pay money to keep up their buildings. They have their own bills that they have to do. They have to do taxes. They have to file fees, all kinds of stuff. I get all that. I really do. I get all that. But at the same time, a lot of these companies, the majority of these companies are gigantic corporations, some of the biggest across the nation, hell, some of the biggest in the world, and they make top dollar profits. And even though I get that there's business aspects to take into consideration that they have to pay, I'm sorry, but I just don't see an excuse or any kind of sensible reason not to have the capital, the money, the means to adjust your wages to match the damn economy of where your businesses are based. Whether they're based in Alabama, Colorado, North Carolina, Florida, California, whatever the case is, I don't see how it's difficult to actually, on a business level, have a meeting and be like, okay, let's look at the state that we are in right now. Not where the main office of your company is based, like Kroger or King Soopers, since they're based in Cincinnati. No. Don't base all of your data and stuff off of Cincinnati. No, do it separately. Hold freaking meetings, okay, with different branches in different states of where your company is spread out in, and if you have to do a video call as Joe, I'm talking to you, Joe. If you have to sit down and do various video calls with different branches across different companies and different states, or whoever, I guess not Joe, but I guess this would be more for whoever the hell the president is of Kroger. Okay, if you have to sit down and do meetings, video call meetings, and maybe you can't, you don't have the time to fly out to these places, but video call meetings across different branches, across different states, okay? Why can't you do that? Just take time to do that. You don't even have to do 50 in one day. Hell, you could just do like one a day, one a day. If you have to spread it out that way, sure, it'll take a long time, but at least you're doing something about it. Have these meetings and be like, okay, let's all sit down and look at what's happening in the state that you're in, that you're talking to, the person that you're talking to, president of Kroger. If you're talking to somebody in Colorado, so Joe Kelly in this case, sit down, grill him, and be like, hey, what's happening in the state of Colorado? And then you all collectively can have some kind of board meeting or whatever and figure out how can we adjust based on the needs of the state of Colorado, the economy of the state of Colorado. On a business level, I seriously don't see how hard it would be to do that. Hell, if I was running my own damn company, my own damn business, I'd be having meetings like that every damn day. Every damn day, if I had to. Maybe even every week if I had to push it a little bit. But I would want to actively know this information. Especially if I'm running a company that's spread out in different areas or even across the country or into different countries, I should say. But more to be on topic and on point here, if I'm based in Colorado, okay, but I'm spread out to Florida or South Carolina or Indiana or somewhere, I would want to have meetings. If I can't fly down there, I would try to fly down there. If I can't fly down there, I would at least put the damn camera on, sit down and be like, hey, I want to talk, have a meeting here. Let's go over what's happening in Indiana. How is the company? How is the economy? How is the company, but how is the economy? What's the cost? Let's go over what the cost of living is there in Indiana. How much people make on an average basis, okay? And then let's adjust to that. What's the rent like? What's housing market like? What's the cost of living? Like, what is all that? So that if I'm running a grocery chain, it's like, okay, well, this is how much we should probably adjust our wages and our benefits and stuff to match the proper economy of Indiana. I don't think it would be that hard to do. I don't think it would take that long to figure out either. I could figure that out my damn self, honestly. Like, I mean, it should not be that fucking difficult. And I don't think it should be that big of an issue, especially for a company as big as Kroger. I mean, they are one of the main leading grocery chains in the entire country of America. How is it difficult to figure this out? The cost of living is high here in Colorado, so why not adjust the King Soopers company to fit properly with the current state of Colorado? I don't see how impossible that is. I mean, a friend of mine on Facebook just posted a poster that was very interesting. I don't know if this is confirmed or not, but this is an example of what I'm talking about, adjusting. Apparently Costco might be considering to raise their wages of their employees to $32 an hour. $32 an hour. If you take in account deductions and taxes, now I don't know if Costco has a union, but if they do, if you take in union fees and union dues, you're maybe grossing $32 an hour, but you're actually netting probably somewhere close to $23 an hour. Netting. Okay, that is closer to a livable wage here in the state of Colorado, because that equates to like somewhere, if it's $23 an hour, that's somewhere around $920 a week. Okay, and which means you're probably making over $3,500 a month. Okay, so that is closer to what average wages should be here in Colorado. Across the board, because you have to take into account rent alone for the majority of places here in the state of Colorado is ridiculously high for just a studio or one bedroom apartment. We're talking about spaces that are either 700 square feet or less for one person. So yeah, I'd say over $3,500 a month should land you at least not struggling and not starving on a weekly basis at minimum. But you have to also take into account all the other bills and stuff that you got to pay. That's going to rack up, because we're just talking about rent here. So that's going to rack up with everything else. Like, so, that's the kind of business I'm talking about. But that's the kind of business I'm talking about. Costco raising the bar to $32 an hour. If that's true and they really do that, they're setting the bar for all other companies to be like, hey, this is the state of Colorado. You might want to consider raising your wages to much higher than what you're thinking, because you have to that tells me, if this is true, that tells me Costco's corporate management, they get it. They understand what's happening here in Colorado. It's literally the second coming of California. Everybody needs to start raising the bar here. Everybody needs to start raising the bar here. And that's why this strike is so important. This is what I've been talking about across videos. It's beyond Kroger. It's beyond King Soopers. The economic politics, not all the other bullshit politics, just the economic politics is important to address. And we need to get our state government to recognize this issue. We need to shine light on this. And it's not just companies that we need to get to understand. We need to get our governors to understand. We need to get our state government to understand that shit is wrong here in Colorado. and everything is off balance. And we need to stop allowing these companies to get away with, you know, underpaying everybody here in Colorado. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And this is why it's one of the reasons why I hate minimum wage, the whole concept of minimum wage, because it's not, especially the way that we are doing it both on a federal level and a local level, because the minimum wage that we're setting is way too low. It is way too low. For God's sakes, the minimum wage here in the state of Colorado is like $15 an hour. A little bit over than that. Are you serious? The minimum wage should be like $30 an hour. Honestly. Or actually, well, yeah, $30 an hour, because you have to take into account taxes and all the deductions that you're going to get taken out of your checks. So, I mean, minimum wage being $30 an hour instead of $15 would actually, you'd net, I don't know, maybe like $20 an hour. Yeah. And even with that money, you're still struggling. You're still struggling. $20 an hour isn't enough. It's barely enough to scrape by. But at least it's enough money to actually pay all of your bills and pay all of your bills on time, which is another important thing. So it's like, yeah, you may be struggling in other areas, but at least you're not going into debt. At least you're not waking up in fear every day. Hey, am I going to lose this roof over my head? And yeah, you're going to be struggling probably to get food, but at least you won't be starving. Okay? At least you won't be struggling to be like, can I buy some ramen this week? You know what I mean? Like, it would be better than what we have now. Way better than what we have now. And so many people don't understand this, and this is what's adding to the frustration here. And it's just pathetic, and we really need to start sending a message here. But I digress. There's a press release version of the strike announcement that UFCW released, and I want to go over that because it's actually broken down into a little bit more detail. So let's bring that up. Let's bring that up, and we're gonna zoom in here so that we can read it. So this is the press release version. It's the press release version of it. Colorado grocery store workers announced 2-week ULP strikes to begin on Thursday, February 6th, which is tomorrow. When? Starting at 5 a.m. Mountain Time on Thursday, February 6th, 2025. Where? All unionized King Super stores throughout Adams, Arapahoe, Broomfield, Denver, Douglas, and Jefferson counties, as well as King Super stores in the cities of Boulder and Louisville. Okay. Who? UFCW Local 7 grocery store members working at the above stores. During the last week of January, these workers voted by 96% to authorize a ULP strike. They have been in contract negotiations since October, and their contract expired in January. These strikes cover approximately 10,000 workers at 77 stores. What? Unfair labor practice strikes are allowed under federal law when workers have attempted to resolve a conflict or dispute with their employer and have formalized that complaint in an unfair labor practice charge against the employer with the National Labor Relations Board. And something that I was so kindly reminded of by UFCW recently, shout out to y'all. I want to preface this and remind everybody here in this video that the National Labor Relations Board is a federal company and or group, I should say. It is part of the federal government. Okay, so this is not something, they are not a state or local thing. They are a Fed group. So they play a vital, they are a little bit of a vital aspect in this whole thing because they are a very important piece in this whole entire situation. And it shows that their involvement on this shows that this goes beyond the state of Colorado. It goes beyond King Supers, and it potentially could lead to more important or bigger issues, which is why this strike is so important, and I've ranted about this before. So let's continue. The specific ULPs in this case are multiple and include some of the following type of charges: illegally interrogating union members about our bargaining and surveilling members in discussions with union staff. I'm not entirely sure if that's actually illegal or not, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is. Illegally refusing to provide information necessary for the union to be able to make or consider proposals in contract negotiations, including sales data necessary for staffing proposals. We've gone over this before, and yes, I believe that actually, I believe that actually is illegal. Actually, technically speaking, it's illegal. Not directly, not like the very act of not providing data. It's a little bit more complicated than that. It's more of like it's more like of a domino effect. They're not providing data in order for these two sides to properly negotiate and properly propose adequate or appropriate proposals for the company and its workers. And because they're not including that data, that can lead to them going against the law of not and technically resulting in an unfair labor practice because they're withholding information. Not because they're the action directly of withholding that information. It's because it can lead to resulting overall in the picture, this, you're not doing this, therefore we need to formalize or vote on a strike because you're not cooperating in the negotiations. Therefore, this can result or be looked at as technically illegal. So it's a little bit complicated, but at the end of the day, in summary, yes, it's illegal and they're wrong. So, and they need to be cooperating a lot more. Moving on, illegally threatening members with discipline and sending home from work for simply exercising their union right to wear union clothing, buttons, and other union gear that allow workers to stand in solidarity. Yeah, they are doing that. I believe that actually does count at being illegal. I don't think I've mentioned this before in a video, but I will mention it here. That absolutely counts as workplace discrimination, and that is illegal, and that is definitely something that needs to be addressed. However, something I want to address real quick related to this little point here is that they're not only doing that, as we've talked about before in this channel, but if anybody has been seeing the live streams that Local 7 has been posting and doing on Facebook, where they go outside of each store and they have like a projector going on the wall of the building, and I would suggest those videos, by the way, are still up on Facebook. I would suggest people go checking out at least some of those and see how the company and local management, like mid-management, like store managers, whatever, have been treating the person who's been doing the live streams and has been treating the union. And it's very telling, and it's proof right there of how they've, as we've discussed before on this channel, how they not only groom their management to be aggressive towards union members, but it shows literally that they're also grooming them to even do illegal things. Because while they do own the building and the property, they also don't own the parking lot. And it's also a projector going on the wall, which is technically not against the law to do. They're allowed to do that. Especially considering that a strike is happening and there is literally an ongoing dispute between the UFCW and King Soopers. So, and some of the stuff I've watched a couple of these live streams, and some of the stuff that they will walk up to them and say is wild, and it is very rage inducing, and it really shows how illegal King Soopers is being and how it's transferring down translating down, I should say, to even their store management. And there was even at one point, I even saw somebody, one of the store managers, come up with one of the security guards. And it's like, bro, that is such an unnecessary flex. It's not like, again, I've just mentioned this. It's not like we're going to be aggressive or violent or anything. Like, it's, what the fuck? There's no need to bring security into this. Nobody's breaking the law here. Nobody's trespassing. Nobody's doing that stuff. We have the right. There is a First fucking Amendment in this country for a goddamn reason. And we have the right to exercise it. Okay? So, like, and that's what we're doing. So, I mean, and that's what they're doing. Especially doing these live streams. So it's like, and the whole point of the projectors and the live streams, because we need more eyes on this. We need to bring more light to what's happening here, because there's a lot of illegal things happening, and there's a lot of mismanagement. There's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of favoritism. There's a lot of corporate greed, and there's a lot of unfair labor practices happening. And we need to get voices on this, because it's already been proven, as I'm proving here on this channel, that the mainstream media is not doing an adequate job of properly vetting and expressing all of this information. So we've got to have a voice. We've got to stand up. We've got to tell people what is happening here. So let's move on to the second page here. Second page. So last point here. Unlawfully insisting on gutting $8 million in retiree health benefit funds to pay for wage increases for active workers. We've gone over this before in this channel, and we looked it up, and I showed it on screen and in video. Technically, that is actually not illegal or unlawful. However, it is still a busted tactic to use, and it is wrong. And personally, along with, I'm pretty sure, everybody else who knows about this, I personally view that as an unfair labor practice, which, if that counts as an unfair labor practice, I guess in a way, technically it could still result in meaning to be, or result in being illegal in a way. So technically, you know, it could still in a way considered to be illegal. I've never said that in previous videos, and I'm saying it now because you're seeing it in real time. Honestly, I never thought of it that way until now. I'm glad my brain just made that connection. I never really thought of it that way. So in a way, even though by itself, technically it's not illegal, but if it's considered, I wonder if the National Labor Board could look at this, or maybe they already are looking at it in some of the lawsuits that's going on. But even though by itself directly, so I guess this would be a legal question for a lawyer to figure out. But even though directly by itself, it's not considered illegal, but if it's considered to be an unfair, or seen or perceived as being an unfair labor practice, it could still result in being illegal through that means, not directly by itself, but it could still indirectly be illegal. So, that's an interesting point. That's an interesting point. But I'm gonna shelf that thought, and we're gonna move on here. Connor Hall, a King Soopers worker from the deli department at Store 33 in Boulder, who is on the union member bargaining team, said, "These are serious charges against Kroger-owned King Soopers. They have and continue to break the law and are trying to force us to accept a new contract that takes us backward." Absolutely well said, Connor. Well said. That's not going to happen. Meanwhile, we have real problems with low staffing, absolutely, and low wages that make the job so bad that many of us can't even afford to shop where we work. That is so well stated. Good job, Connor. Beautifully stated. I'm glad they laced that into the press conference of all things. And I guarantee you none of the news outlets have quoted that line. But, we'll see, because we're going to go over some news reports later, but we'll see. I doubt it, because they're so fucking biased. But that's why this channel exists, because we, unlike the mainstream media, we cover all information here. And that, let me tell you, man, this right here, this statement by Connor Hall, cannot be expressed enough, man. And a lot more people need to see this statement. They need to read that again, you know. And as somebody who's a former member, worker, employee of Kroger and King Soopers, let me tell you, I can't properly express to you how true what he said here. Like, it is so true. The low staffing thing, we've talked about this before on the channel, but I love this last sentence when he said low wages that make the job so bad that many of us can't even afford to shop where we work. That, I mean, everybody in the state of Colorado could probably relate to that. And if that's the case, that should be telling to people that we have a serious fucking economic problem here, and we need to fucking address this. Seriously. This is why we're going on strike. This is what this might possibly be the biggest reason right here that is driving the strike. And we need more attention on that, man. Let's continue. Fellow worker Chris Lacey, a service manager from a Littleton King Superstore, added, "My fellow union members and I don't want to go on strike, but we have been left with no other option. King Soopers has been understaffing our stores for years." Absolutely they have, well said Chris. "Harming workers and customers, and when we have tried to resolve that harm in negotiations, the company has illegally withheld information. We need to make our proposals and respond to their proposals. And now they have the gall to say we are stalling? They are the ones who have been holding up progress for months." Way to go, Chris. Well fucking stated. And I have also ranted about this in a previous report, in a previous video. I've said the same thing. I also want to add on here to Chris's statement real quick that not only are, have they been understaffing, the stores for years and harming workers and customers, when we have tried to resolve that harm in negotiations and in other means, not only that, but they're literally ignoring it as well. They're not just withholding information, they're literally actively and quite literally ignoring the problem altogether. And I've talked about this in previous videos, and you can go back and see my, how I explained that situation and how I got to see that firsthand. But they're literally ignoring it, and that is insane. And the fact that they've been accusing the union lately of stalling is pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. UFCW Local 7 President Kim Cordova, who heads up the negotiations and led the strike back in 2022, stated, "This strike is about holding one of the largest corporations in America accountable when they break the law and cause harm to workers and our customers." Yes, it is well stated, Kim. Exactly what I've been saying many, many times, and I'll keep saying it. This goes beyond King Soopers. This is about accountability of when corporations blatantly break the law, conduct a bunch of unfair labor practices, and quite literally are harming both the employees and the community. And to all of those corporate heads out there who may think about, defending Joe Kelly and, saying that we're in the wrong and we shouldn't be strikes and strikes doesn't solve anything. Just reread this statement right here. Go back and look at all my videos and go and literally listen to all the stories and all the stuff that I've already talked about. I'm sorry. Again, I get that there's other business aspects to play here, but I'm sorry. But there is no defending what is happening and has been happening here with Kings for years. There's no defending that. Especially with the shootings that we've gone through and the homicide that just happened a week ago. There's no defending this kind of actions and this kind of behavior. There isn't. I get that you have a company to run. I get that there's a bunch of moving, gears at play. But it doesn't excuse even in the slightest the kind of illegal shit that is happening here. And I'm sorry, but we have all of the fucking rights to strike and tell you otherwise. Let's continue here. We are holding this strike for a 2-week period to allow everyone to understand our concerns. Thank God, because I'm going to be covering the living shit out of this, and I'm going to be doing my best to help spread the word to everybody about this entire situation and give the employer time to right their wrong. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's because, again, it's not like nobody wants to go on strike, man. Nobody wants to go on strike. Nobody wants to deal with this bullshit. As I've talked about before, in reality, truth be told, nobody wants to have to deal with this shit. I wish we could all just continue living our lives in peace and just keep, surviving and trying to thrive towards living better lives. But it's like, we can't let this go unnoticed either. That doesn't mean that we just not say anything and just keep being slaves and just keep, enabling shit like this to happen. We don't want this to happen, but it needs to be addressed, and we really need to make it clear that this shit is not okay. But we also want to make clear, and I'm glad Kim added this in at the end of her statement here, that we also don't want to destroy Kings either, because as I've explained already in a previous video, Kings has real value. And we want you to do the right thing. Joe Kelly, we want you to do the right thing. We still hope that you do the right thing. And as much as I fucking hate your guts, I hope you still come to your damn senses, get your head out of your ass, get your dick off of the table, and actually do the right thing. Push your fucking corporate greed and all of your piles of money aside and do the right thing. It's not that hard. You have the means to do so. It's been proven. Do it. Do it. Stop holding back data. Stop stalling. Stop making all these bullshit claims and lying constantly to the press and to mainstream media. Stop playing the favorites game with everybody. Stop treating your employees poorly. Stop having mismanaged policies and employee programs. Start having actual real security in your stores. Stop ignoring serious issues like staffing, like your overturn rates, your turnover rates. Stop ignoring murders and homicides and when people's lives end. Stop ignoring all of this stuff and actually do the right thing. Come back to the table and actually present something that is sensical, accurate, and actually provides the entire picture of your every aspect of your company so that we can actually get shit done here instead of having to strike. Because we're not the ones at fault here, and I'm tired of you making it out to be that way. It's you guys that are the problem. You're the ones that have broken the law. Multiple times, might I add. You're the ones that are stalling, you're the ones that are withholding information, and you're the ones that are quite literally delusionally ignoring a whole bunch of severe issues within your company and even outside of your company. You're not connected, Joe Kelly. You're not. Please, all we're asking for you is just to fucking admit it, at least. You're not connected. It's okay to admit that. You're not connected. It's not too late to come back and fix this. And fix this. Do the right thing, man. Just do the right thing. I don't see how hard it is to do that. That's all we're asking. That's all we're asking. And you need to really consider this and sleep on it for the next 2 weeks, because it's not worth it. It's not worth it for anybody. It's not worth it. We're not the ones at fault here. You are. There's a reason why. Like, you seriously need to sit down and look into and think, sleep on this. Think over the next 2 weeks. Why is it that almost 100%, 95% on average of your entire workforce hates you? Doesn't like you, is upset with how the company's being run, is upset with what they are seeing and what they are having to deal with on a daily basis. Seriously, over the next 2 weeks, Joe Kelly, why don't you sit down and really contemplate this? Stop with the bullshit lying theatrics that you're doing and actually think, what is going on here? Because you are the one that is in the wrong. And you need to start considering the things that you're doing don't work, haven't been working for years, and it's about damn time that you stopped. Let's finish this letter out. Background. Contract negotiations between Local 7 grocery store workers and King Soopers began in October. For months, the employer failed to respond in any way to the union's request for information on data that relates to pricing and staffing. Some information was provided starting in January, but it is still inadequate. And see, this is what that we are all talking about. This is all we're saying here. We're not the ones that are stalling, you are. The union can't present, as I've said before in a previous video, the union can't properly present a proper, adequate counterargument if you're not providing the data to do so. Joe, you really need to stop bullshitting and lying and start taking this shit into consideration. Because believe me when I tell you, these 2 weeks are going to hurt you, bro. They're going to hurt you. They're not going to hurt us. They ain't going to hurt us. They're going to hurt you. Real bad. Real bad. King Soopers Division President Joe Kelly oversaw the most recent strike by King Soopers workers in 2022. The company's actions during that strike are the subject of a lawsuit by Colorado Attorney General Phil Weiser for entering into an illegal no-poach agreement with Albertsons to undercut the striking workers. We've gone over that before. And the fact that they colluded with each other is crazy. UFCW and is very illegal. UFCW Local 7 represents 23,000 union workers across Colorado and Wyoming, and nearly 12,000 of those workers are employed at King Soopers and City Market stores. And that, I say, is that for this statement. And let me tell you something. That was a good one. That was a good statement. That was a good press release there. I'm glad they added all that in. And I guarantee you, man, the mainstream media probably just plucked pieces of it out and so that they can continue running their own narrative and continue to make the union look bad, which is literally all they've been doing since since this whole situation has happened. They did this last strike. They always do this. It's so biased, so unfair, it's so stupid, it's such bullshit. And this is why this channel exists. This is why this channel exists, because we're not going to do that here. I'm going to go over every piece of information because all of it is important. All of it. So moving on, there's something else that I wanted to talk about here because it's something that I missed, actually. This was posted on Facebook back in January 31st. And there was something very interesting that the union sent to King Soopers. And I want to go over it real quick because this happened well before the strike vote even happened. And I haven't fully read it, and I think it would be interesting to go over. So let's see here. Apparently, this is some kind of request from the union to King Soopers for a safe shutdown procedure. And I want to go over this. So let's zoom in here and let's take my face out of this once again. So let's go over this. So let's scroll down here. Yeah, this is from the union, specifically from Kim herself, directly to Joe Kelly. So let's see here. Request for information, safe shutdown procedure. Dear Ian, Joe, and Stephanie, in preparation for a potential work stoppage, I am requesting the following relevant information. 1. Please provide a detailed shutdown procedure detailing how any equipment currently operated by bargaining unit members of UFCW Local 7 should be safely and orderly shut down and returned to management. That's very interesting. I'm curious as to what they mean by that. Moving on. Please provide a detailed shutdown procedure to minimize damages to any goods. For the shutdown procedure, please provide instructions specific to each bargaining unit classification in each location, department, etc. In the event of a work stoppage, such procedures may include procedures for limiting spoliation of perishable goods and safekeeping and tracking of valuable merchandise. I see. I'm very curious as to what the context is behind this. And that's why I want to go over this, because I find it fascinating, and this is an interesting letter. But let's continue. 3, please provide the relevant contact person who is empowered to resolve any questions pertaining to a safe and orderly shutdown in the event of a work stoppage. And then we're going to go on to page 2 here. The union respectfully requests this information be electronically provided within 48 hours of the delivery of this letter. So obviously, since it's February 5th, they should have long responded to this. The union considers refusal to provide this information to be an unfair labor practice. Interesting. Under the National Labor Relations Act. And the union does not waive any rights to engage in a strike or other protected concerted activity if the company does not timely provide this information or the information. Sincerely, Kim Cordova. I find that quite fascinating. That's why I wanted to bring that up. I find that fascinating because I missed it. First of all, I missed it. And I don't think, because that was back in January 31st. And I missed it, but I want to bring it up because I have not heard if they responded to that, actually. I haven't heard if they responded to that. And if they didn't, that just adds, as Kim said at the end of that letter there, that just adds to the unfair labor practice charges. And honestly, to be honest, I'm not going to lie, I wouldn't put it past them. They probably didn't respond to that. They probably didn't respond to that because they've been obviously they've been withholding information this entire time anyways. So it's like I wouldn't put it past them if they kept withholding even more information. But that's interesting because before the strike vote even happened, they sent that letter out. And this is another reason why I wanted to bring this up and go over it, because this is once again more proof that the union is literally actively trying to negotiate and communicate with the company in good faith. And that letter, I would argue that letter by itself is proof that the mainstream media is trying to spin a narrative to make the union look bad, because they keep focusing on making these underlying suggestions in all of their articles that the union is not necessarily in the right here, and the strike is unnecessary. It's bullshit, and it's because in all these statements it also reinforces the fact that Joe Kelly's lying too, about all of this. Well, the union's not cooperating. They're the ones that are stalling. They're the ones that are not properly communicating with it. No. That's bullshit. And I would argue and say this letter is just another piece of proof of that, because they're actually trying to not only be reasonable, but they're literally sitting here thinking like, okay, well, if we do have a strike, if we do end up going on strike, because once again, this was the 31st, so this was before any of the strike votes happened. If we do go on strike, we need to talk to them about, okay, if a work stoppage happens, we need to know what you're gonna do, and how you're gonna handle, equipment, items, product, perishables, all that stuff, because the union cares about all that stuff. They're acting in good faith. So why try to smear them? It's so, Joe, you're the one that's being unnecessary here, quite frankly. But I wanted to bring that up. I really wanted to present that to everybody so that they can read it and they can see it themselves, that letter, because I found that to be quite interesting and a little relevant. But let's move on. There's something that was released February 5th. So that was today. Actually, there was something that was released today. It's I find this to be very interesting too, and I want to go over this. But it is a press release of a press conference that the union is going to be holding tomorrow, actually. So let's real quick go over this. We're going to zoom in, and we're going to take my face out of here, and we're going to go over this real quick because I find this to be very fascinating. So let's read through this. ULP strike press conference, high noon on day one. Denver Co., the UFCW Local 7 union grocery store workers' strike, as announced earlier this week, will begin on Thursday morning at 5 a.m. Our union will hold a noontime event and press conference to update the public and the media on the strike. That's cool. That's cool. Grocery store workers, as well as UFCW Local 7 President Kim Cordova, will be joined by others and will address the unfair labor practices that are behind the strike and answer questions from the press. Before I continue here, I'm not entirely sure about this, to be honest, but as far as I'm aware, normal citizens and just everyday people cannot attend press conferences, and only journalists with credentials, with established credentials, can attend press conferences, which means, unfortunately, your boy here cannot attend the press conference. I would love to go there, actually, but I actually wouldn't mind. But based off of what my understanding of how press conferences work and what they are, I can't attend it. I can't attend it. I wouldn't even be allowed, in the area or inside the building. I don't know where. I guess we're about to find out where it's going to be. But I don't think I'm going to be allowed to be there because I'm not accredited or a verified journalist with credentials. So even though this channel is a big, giant investigative journalistic project here, and I'm literally doing journalist type stuff right now in this video and in this channel, I don't have the proper credentials to attend an actual official press conference. I believe that it's not going to be possible for me to go there. So, I just wanted to throw that out there and kind of state that in case anybody was wondering, because I was wondering about it myself. But let us continue. When 12 noon Thursday, February 6th, so tomorrow at 12 Mountain Time, they will be holding this press conference where Safeway parking lot. They're holding it at a Safeway parking lot. So it's not, the answer to the question is not going to be inside a building, but I find that hilarious because Safeway, which is owned by Albertsons. That's funny. Okay. I'm surprised they're allowed to do that. Okay. But a Safeway parking lot located at 6220 East 14th Avenue, Denver, Colorado, 220. Note, this is across the street from a Kroger-owned King Super store. Interesting. Okay. See, this brings questions here because, like I just explained, from my understanding, you need credentials to attend a press conference, but it's not inside a building. It's in a parking lot. So I wonder if I could still theoretically see it from a distance, maybe. Once I'm done reading this, I'll get into another reason why I personally kind of don't want to go. But let's continue. What? Press conference and Q&A with the press. Great visuals. Event is across the street from one of the Denver area King Super Strike locations. In addition, this is one of the Safeway stores that the union is suggesting people shop at during the strike. Oh, okay. Now it makes sense. The workers at the Safeway store are also UFCW Local 7 union grocery store workers. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, so now that makes more sense. Now that makes complete sense. But as opposed to King Super's members, the Safeway workers are still in contract negotiations with Albertson/Safeway. I'm going to go ahead and skip the background here. And so that is the press release. I believe there is a second page to this, actually. Yeah, there's a second page. Yeah, okay, so we're going to skip all this. So there you have it. That is the letter, the press release there of the press conference. We skipped some of it because it was just a repeat of some things and that we've already covered. So that was interesting. I find that to be interesting. Now, I did mention that I was going to go over a reason why I don't want to attend, even if I could. I don't actually want to attend the press conference because we'll get into this at the end of the video, but I honestly would much prefer, the press conference sounds interesting and I would love to ask some questions. However, I would much prefer to be out there with you guys, which is what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. I would much rather be out there talking with you. Talking with the workers, the people who are actually picketing and going on strike. I want to talk to you guys. I want to interview you guys. I want to ask you guys questions, get some balls rolling, get some conversations going, get some information out there, maybe even some stories of things that you've experienced, things that you've seen firsthand, because people need to know the inside stuff. People need to know what's going on behind the walls of King Super stores. What's going on the inside? When you deep dive into it, what is actually happening? What are people seeing? What are the employees seeing? That's why it's so important. I view the talking to people during a strike, I view that to be much more important as opposed to asking questions to the directly, to the union, mingling with mainstream media, press people, and that, like I said, that could come with its own benefits, and I could potentially get more behind the scenes information by doing that. But no, I think a better move is to just be out there with you guys, and honestly, that's another reason why, even if I could, I don't want to attend the press conference. I have other plans that I personally think are a lot more interesting and a lot more important to cover because the press isn't covering it. They're busy doing press conferences. They're busy taking lying bullshit statements by Joe Kelly. They're busy trying to spin this narrative, a specific narrative, and not actually presenting the full picture of the entire situation. Whereas I am doing the opposite. I'm trying to present the full picture here, the real information, the truth. So, I'd much rather do that. But again, we'll get in. I'm going to save it. We'll get into the full details of my plans of that at the end of the video here. So let's move on. We're going to move on to covering. Now we're going to cover the news Now we're going to cover the news articles. Okay, this is wild, man. This is wild. The news articles are pretty wild that we're going to cover. But real quick, before we get to the news articles, I almost forgot something. There are some things, because I mentioned this earlier, there were some things that were popping off on Facebook these past couple days, and I really want to bring something to light here. I want to talk about this real quick because something very interesting happened. We're going to do this live. I got my phone. We're going to do this live. There's something, I'm not going to mention names or anything like that, but there's something I wanted to address if I can find it. Real quick, give me just a minute because I lost it. Crap. There's 9 comments. Why is it only showing 1? What is happening here? Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna bring up. Bring it up here. This is happening in real time, people. I might keep pieces of this. I may skip or edit it around and skip around a little bit, but I may keep this in, actually, the video, because I want to show in real time, or not necessarily show because I don't want to dox anybody, but like, well, actually, I don't even think it matters because it's not showing anything. But I'm gonna go ahead and bring this up. Look at this is on Facebook. Look at this. So this is a post. We went through this earlier in the video. We went through this post, and there was something I was going to talk about next in this next segment. It was based off of one of the comments of this post, and I had interacted with the person. I asked questions, and I have 2 replies on this comment, but Facebook has deleted it apparently. I've tried on my phone and I've even tried on the computer here. They're just gone, but it still says 9 comments. It still says 9 comments right here, but it's only showing 1, which is from this dude, random dude who's saying, "What a joke." I don't know why he's saying that. I'm not going to get into that, but like they're supposed to, even when I click on it, there's supposed to be 9 comments. There's not. It only says most relevant, and even when you go to all comments, still doesn't show it. It still doesn't show it. So, see, this is, oh my God, this is information manipulation. I've talked about this before, but oh my God. This is what I'm talking about, man. Like, this is stupid. Like, I guess Facebook deleted it or hid them or something. But there was something interesting I wanted to bring up before I get into the news articles, and you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and I wanted to show it a little bit, but I wanted to talk. Well, I wasn't gonna show it, but I wanted to at least talk about it. But I'm gonna go ahead and just talk about it because I wasn't gonna show it anyways. But it's just crazy because I wanted to do direct quotes from it, and which is why I wanted to have it handy. But now it's just gone. Now it's just gone. That's wild. You saw this live. You saw this live. As of the recording of this video, Facebook hid those comments. That's fucking stupid. That's fucking stupid. Okay. So. Okay. Okay, well, you saw that live. Wow. Not exactly live, but you saw it in semi-real time of the recording of this video. What I was going to talk about was some stuff on Facebook that was popping off. So somebody mentioned that at store, I'm going to assume this was a Store 16 employee, maybe not, I don't know. But somebody said in the comments section of one of the posts of the posters that we had just reviewed earlier, somebody said that allegedly, they didn't confirm this, but allegedly one of the security guards or the security guard of the store when he went to go use the bathroom, he set his gun on the urinal and he left it there. And when he was done and he came out, a deli worker walked into the bathroom and found his gun, saw his gun on the urinal. And so he had to take it, grab it, and return it to the security guard. Like, wow, there's a very important reason why I wanted to bring this up, because it's alleged. We can't confirm it. We don't know if that actually happened. We don't know if it's true. But so again, let's remember that this is alleged. This isn't confirmed information. But even I responded to this, and I asked some questions, and I responded to this. But like, apparently the security guards, I have now confirmed who the other security company is that works for King Super. So Sparky's is one company, and the actual state, apparently the state of Colorado, helps guard the stores. It's the Denver security guards, the Denver security company or something like that, which I'm going to assume they work for the state. They work for the state. And here's the thing that makes a lot of sense now that I've gotten confirmation of that. Here's the thing. Even if this is alleged, this brings up a very serious conversation and topic that should be brought up. Regardless of whether or not something like that happened, we have had a shooting in recent years, okay? And we also just had a homicide incident a little over a week ago. This makes this even more embarrassing if it really is true that a Denver security guard who's working for the state of Colorado or the county of Denver, whichever one you want to pick, doesn't matter, working for the local government, either way, or with the local government to help guard these stores, take your pick. It's even more embarrassing that somebody left their gun in a bathroom where anybody could have taken it and decided to start shooting up the place. Now, as a security guard myself, I'm unarmed, okay? I work as an unarmed guard. Even then, I make it imperative that I leave none of my belongings so haphazardly all over the goddamn place, whether they're weapons or not. Because we're security guards, okay? And quite frankly, if you really want to get down and gritty with it, anything can be used as a weapon. So we need to be extra vigilant and careful when it comes to what we're guarding and what kind of items we're interacting with and what we're choosing to leave behind. Even if you're hiding your belongings, you want to make sure you're hiding it in a place where you know somebody's not going to think of looking. Somebody's not going to, go behind and try to find and rummage through. Or at least it's within eye shot, or it's within some kind of area of your being so that you can at least acknowledge or see if somebody's going towards your belongings or not. Like, it's... And as a security guard, this really fucking infuriates me to hear stuff like this happening, whether it's true or not, okay? Again, whether it's true or not, I want to take a moment here in this video and make a statement, okay, for all the people who are guarding King Supers as armed guards with weapons. Keep in mind of your weaponry and where you place it and where you choose to leave it. Don't forget it. keep it on you at all times. I don't give a damn if you're taking a shit. You need to remember where you are. You need to remember the kind of environment and the surroundings that you're in. You need to remember and acknowledge that you are guarding a grocery store where kids are walking into the building semi-consistently. And you need to remember that we have had a shooting recently. And we have had in Boulder, and we have had a murder recently in Colorado Springs. We have had cases of violence recently in the state of Colorado. You need to keep in mind that we have had aggressive and violent, moves against even strike workers. Keep in mind that there are violent and aggressive people that exist here in the state of Colorado. And if there are any fucking security guards watching this, okay, or if there's any way to float this video or this part of the video, whatever it is, to somebody who is working for the Denver Guard Commission or for Sparky's, I need you to pay close attention to this statement that I'm making. Do not fumble around and play so haphazardly with guns and weaponry in King Super stores, considering the history that we have had recently in said stores. There are fucking children that have walked into these stores regularly. And me, and I'm sure the majority of people in the city of Colorado would be glad that you don't do shit like leaving your gun in a bathroom. We'd appreciate it if you'd actually be a little bit more on guard. We'd appreciate it if you don't come to work high or on any kind of fucking drug whatsoever, especially if you are working as an armed guard in a grocery store with families and children. And a known history of violence and aggression in recent years with these stores and with this company and with these employees. I think everybody would fucking appreciate it if you'd actually do your fucking job. Now, that being said, I want to move on to something else that I was popping off on Facebook. Okay. And we're going to read this live on my phone because this was really well stated. I'm not going to say names. Okay. I'm not going to say names. I'm just going to read what they said. Another Robo Joe Kelly call. Okay, and in case you guys didn't know, Joe Kelly makes these automated pre-recorded statements, and he will release them via phone numbers of all of the employees that they have phone records of, and they will call you and release this. It's like a pre-recorded message. They'll call you with it, and it plays this pre-recorded message. Kind of like a calling center, just pretty annoying, honestly. But that's what this person is referencing here. Another Robo Joe Kelly call. Nothing new said. No back to the table whatsoever. I was hoping, I'm going to move here. I was hoping for some more discussion about working conditions. Not just for us UFCW Local 7R members, but even the salaried managers who cannot allow us a speck of overtime anymore. Not even to take care of a customer. Joe Kelly and middle management at King Soopers, quit worrying about your own bonuses and do what's best for the health of our company and reward your faithful hard workers with a solid team. Let's cut costs by operating a more efficient warehouse instead of dumping expensive products into our stores that the customers won't buy. Very well stated. And throwing the loads together at random. Yep. Destroying our backs and breaking our products. Yep. And making us stop what we are doing to answer the same questions on Fresh Start over and over again. This was so well stated. And this is so well stated. And before I get into break that down a little bit, let me read one of the comments that was left on this. As a consumer slash shopper, I'm really offended by the humongously long aisles of wine. Clearly put in to boost profits. But then nothing changes in trying to find the regular grocery stuff I hunt and hunt to find every day. This, I really wanted to bring this up real quick because that is so well stated. This is coming from a former worker or a current employee of, I'm assuming current employee of King Soopers. And then that comment is coming from a shopper, from a citizen, okay, a local, community member, okay, like, very well put. Those are a whole bunch of topics that I'm glad that also need to be talked about. King's has changed their product lineup a lot over the past 3 years. And the fact that they've brought in a whole bunch of alcohol and wine and shit that's something that needs to be addressed. On one hand, when you take in the value of King's, as I've talked about before, on one hand, it's kind of helps elevate convenience. It really does. And so instead of having to go to a liquor store or something, you can actually, if you're a wine drinker, you can actually go get it at King's. And they have decent pricing for it. Decent. They're not the cheapest, but they're decent. On the other hand, because they've changed out a lot of their products and brands and stuff for the grocery stuff, the food stuff. And considering what was said about, the middle management not being good, how they're mismanaging product delivery and how they're forming the pallets of product and how it's so randomized and it's not organized properly. And we're breaking our backs to work this stuff. I've been there before. I've done jobs like that. Literally, I've talked about this before. And we're not getting help. We're not getting effective teams. They're mismanaging the way they do products. Taking all that in consideration, was it really necessary to add in a long ass fucking aisle of nothing but wine? Was that really necessary? Because while it does, like I said, on one hand, it has convenience, but on the other hand, you can still go to a fucking liquor store, man. People can still go to a liquor store and find those same bottles of wine for cheaper. So at the end of the day, we have to ask the question, why the hell, Joe Kelly, did you think it was a good idea was it even necessary, actually, to even add in this long ass aisle of wine? And let me preface here, this is at every single King Soopers store, by the way. And at every single one, I have taken notice that the brand new wine aisles are long as hell. What about all the other products that you got rid of that people liked? For example, the egg roll wrappers. People loved that item. I loved that item. I really loved that item. And you traded that in for nothing. You got rid of it for nothing. That's just one of many examples of a whole bunch of items that a lot of people, not just workers, but customers have seen come and go. Back before when I was working with Kings, before I, got let go, you know how many times I heard regular shoppers, people complain about items disappearing. Like, every time I've told people, sorry, but we don't carry that anymore. And it's like, you know how many times people were so visually and vocally upset about that? It's like, oh, I used to get that all the time. And I'd have to tell them, yeah, well, apparently Kim's claims that the sales on those items weren't good enough. Oh, yeah, so you think a whole bunch of wine and liquor is going to recoup those sales? Is going to make up for that? Dude, no, because you're not even selling that stuff at a cheaper rate than the liquor stores are. And some King Soopers, might I add, are built in plazas that already have liquor stores. So it's not even necessary. And those liquor stores, guess what? They carry those same bottles for cheaper. And to put the cherry on top, some of those liquor stores have a wider selection than you do. Because you only carry specific flavors, specific brands, specific, variations. Whereas even local liquor stores carry more variation than you do. So what was the point? It was completely unnecessary. That is a good example of mismanagement right there. It was, at the end of the day, maybe it provided some level of convenience, but it wasn't enough. I mean, hell, I'll admit it right now. I've bought some wine before from a King Soopers, but it's not enough, man. I still overwhelmingly on a daily basis, if I do decide to get wine, I don't actively or even think about going to King Soopers to get it. Hell, even when I go grocery shopping and I go into a King's to get what I need to get, I don't even think about even walking into the liquor aisle. I literally will take the time and effort to go to another liquor store to get wine. I don't even think about it. So through experience, through literally shopping, and this might be something I might actually go out and ask people too, and might do interviews on as well, and ask to see and what they think about, hey, has the wine aisle been useful? Because it's, at the end of the day, personally, and obviously what people are saying, it's not enough to recoup those replacing of those items. So again, the question is, was it even worth it? What the fuck was the point? Why are you taking up all this unnecessary space, a whole aisle worth of space, when you could literally bring back some items that people liked, invested in things that people like? Egg roll wrappers, for example. Maybe bring back some more flavors of some items that you already cover or carry. That would drive sales up like crazy. What if you do what Five Below does with their candy, where they actually sell seasonal, candy that's seasonal, but they sell it all year round? What if you made an aisle that did that? You know how much that would skyrocket with younger people, children, kids, teenagers, even adults. Hell, I love the fucking that very temporary thing that they were selling in some bigger stores, the red velvet Reese's cups. Those were really good. What if you brought that back? What if you bring in all these other different variations that other stores carry? That would add to the competition. That would make you more competitive with the competition. That I would bank investment in businesses on items like that instead of taking away stuff like that and be like, oh, we're just going to bring in a bunch of liquor and alcohol and wine to make up for it. Not doing yourself favors, man. Not doing yourself favors. And those, let me keep in mind, let me also throw out there, personally, I have never seen those shelves empty. I've never seen the wine shelves empty. I've seen the damn beer cases sell more than those wine aisles do. They don't. Those aisles barely get dented. They barely get. I haven't even seen workers work them. I don't see that. I don't see that. Groceries department people, they work all the other aisles way more than they work the liquor aisle. I guarantee you. I guarantee you. So why continue doing it? Why continue taking up that space? It's pathetic. But I really did want to bring all that stuff up because I thought those were really good posts, man. Those were really good posts. And I'm very sad that you got to see in real time somewhat that that other alleged story with the security guard literally got deleted and hidden from Facebook in real time. I think that's retarded. But let's continue. Let's go on to the news reports. Boy, these are good. These are good. I really want to dig into this. Let's bring in the news reports here. So we got 4 of them. This first one is coming out of 9 News. Good, I hate 9 News. But let's get into it because these are wild news reports. Most of the stuff that you're going to see are responses, believe it or not, from Joe Kelly and King Soopers, responses to the announcement of the strike. But let's get into it. Most of it is, but not all of it. But let's get into it. Some King Soopers switched to shortened temporary hours during union strike. Interesting. Starting on Thursday, some King Soopers locations will temporarily be running on shortened hours during a 2-week worker strike, the company said. Those employees who are part of the union have been pushing for higher pay and more staffing for months. And actually, it's been way longer than that. Just so you know, FYI 9 News, since you guys are really terrible at being real journalists, even though you're supposed to be professionals at this, because you're literally 9 News, which is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, news outlet here in the state of Colorado. These higher pays and staffing issues have been going on for years. That's been an issue for years, okay? That's been many, many years. Not months, years. But you wouldn't know that because you're so busy trying to spin your stories and manipulate people into a specific narrative without getting the full picture that you don't seem to realize that a lot of this stuff is not new information. These are things that have been happening. Yeah, so maybe you might consider going back to journalist school. And I'm not even a journalist, and I'm doing better than you. Those with King Soopers have said the union. Those with King Soopers have said the union refuses to actively bargain on wages. And by the looks of it, they are. They are not actively bargaining on that. They're just throwing out their own little thing that they think is okay. Which it's not. It's not. It's just a bad situation all around, said Jack Buffington, the program director for supply chain management at the University of Denver. Oh, this ought to be interesting. When stores go on strike, it reduces the amount of supply that's out in the network, which makes like a shortage of things like eggs or something even more of a problem. So it just becomes this, snowball that is a greater, it's much bigger than it was in 2022, in my opinion. We've talked about this before because we've seen something like this in a previous report, in a previous video, where they try to bring in experts and stuff to say this. And this is another one. A program director for supply chain management at the University of Denver. Look, I don't know what the hell that title even means and what this person even does. But we've talked about this before, but let me add something here. Like, it's not, they're trying to make this sound like there's going to be some kind of complete shutdown of the entire food supply chain in the state of Colorado. And if we lose King Soopers, everything is just going to explode. Nobody's going to be able to get food. It really feels like all of these news outlets bringing in these experts and shit are trying to like sneak in this underlying suggestion that that's going to happen. And that is not the fucking case here. Okay? Yeah, there's going to be a little bit of disruption with King's sales, but it's just King's, man. There's other places to go. And I love how they brought up eggs in particular, because we already, the supply issue with eggs right now has nothing to do with a strike, has nothing to do with economics at all, actually. It's because there's the case of bird flu happening right now, and it is destroying, you know, the whole fucking setup with eggs. That's why there's an egg shortage happening. And this has been going on for a minute now. So it's like, the strike, them making this statement that strikes are going to make problems like that worse, that is not true. And again, I find this fascinating because these people are supposed to be experts, but and I'm not an expert, nor am I claiming to be an expert, but just going off of experience, what I've seen in the previous strike, this is not the case. Stuff like this doesn't necessarily get worse because you can still find this stuff in other places. If King's, supply gets disrupted or whatever, they end up not ordering as many as they used to of these items. Well, then guess what? The competition is going to take that opportunity to just start bringing and just start buying more of that stuff because they're going to get more business. Therefore, Mr. Jack, if we're talking about the supply chain management of the entire state of Colorado or across different counties, if we're talking about a bigger picture, if that's what you're talking about, if that's what you do, then if that's the case, under that context, there's not going to be much of an effect at all from this. So what the hell are we talking about here? What the fuck are we talking about here? It's stupid, man. I hate how the mainstream media is trying to sneak in these little negative little connotations that are just misrepresentations. They really are. In 2022, King Soopers workers went on strike for 9 days. During that time, shelves at unionized King Soopers emptied. We talked about this before. Based on inside sources that I had at the time, that was not the case. Again, want to point out, this is misinformation here. This is not entirely true. This is not true. There wasn't necessarily empty shelves. And this is based off of inside sources that I knew. So, not true, misinformation. And some bakery and deli departments were closed. That is true. This little part right here is true. The rest of that is not. Okay. Yes, there were days where they did have to close the bakery and the deli department because they didn't have, and it wasn't because of supply shortages though. Based off of the information that I got, it was because they didn't have enough temporary workers to properly run the bakery department and run the deli departments. So there were some days, not all days, there were some days where they had to completely shut down those departments. And then they would reopen them the next day. So, that has nothing to do with supply and demand. Efforts to come to agreements with these two rivals are a violation of antitrust laws and won't be tolerated. Attorney General Phil Weiser said, this is interesting, we're going to be keeping a close look on these companies, and if we hear any hint of agreements that they're making with each other, not to compete for customers, not to compete for workers, that's not okay, and we'll investigate. There you have it. There you have it. King Soopers told 9 News they have hired temporary workers to keep the stores open with limited hours. Yeah, but did they tell you that they're flying them from different states? They're not even getting them from the state of Colorado. Wild. To be clear, these temporary workers are not replacement workers. Then why are you training them more? Why are you paying them more? And also, based on the last strike, one that I participated and have experience in, why do you have a tendency of keeping some of them around after the strike ends and making them full-time employees at some of your other locations? Yeah, that's not talked about, is it? Mainstream media doesn't talk about that, do they? As nobody can replace our dedicated staff. Really. However, we have an obligation to the community to offer access to fresh and affordable food and pharmacy services. Then come to the table, Joe. Do the right fucking thing, Joe. Said Jessica Trowbridge with King Soopers Corporate Affairs. Jessica Trowbridge, Corporate Affairs. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if Miss Jessica is part of the club. You know? And if you really fully, truly believe that you have an obligation to the community to offer access to fresh and affordable food and pharmacy services, then why don't you go tell your boss, Joe, Miss Jessica, to do the right thing? Why don't you help do the right thing? Instead of making these little statements that aren't telling the full truth. According to Trowbridge, impacted stores will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Oh, so they're narrowing their hours this time around. That's interesting. Pharmacies at impacted stores will operate Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Interesting. They will close daily for lunch from 1 to 1:30 p.m. and are closed on Sundays. Fascinating. So they too are changing their hours this time around. So the union and Kings are also are not doing the same hour setup that they did in the last strike this time around. That's interesting. Non-impacted stores will maintain regular store and pharmacy hours. Stores in the following areas aren't affected: Benton, Brighton, Castle Rock, Cheyenne, I probably butchered that name. I always do. Colorado Springs, Conifer, Erie, Firestone, Fort Collins, Greeley, Longmont, Loveland, Pueblo, and Windsor. Additionally, 2 locations in Thornton will not be impacted: 13700 Colorado Boulevard and 13525 Quebec Street. And we'll skip that last one because we already know this. So there you have it for this article. And that was very interesting. It was very interesting to learn a little bit of what's going on King's End when it comes to their hours and temporary workers and stuff. But it's also rage-inducing. Let's move on to the next article. Pueblo and Colorado Springs. This is coming out of KOAA. Pueblo and Colorado Springs King Soopers employees will not strike Thursday. This is kind of important to emphasize. Because while their votes have been done, they are not joining the strike tomorrow. Their strike will be announced at a later time. King Soopers on Friday released a statement after contract negotiations ongoing since October came to a halt with no deal. Disappointed in UFCW Local 7 decision to authorize a strike was premature after the company's last, best, and final offer was presented to the union on January 16th. Disappointed, please. Here we go. While we respect our associates' rights to participate in work stoppage, any associate who chooses to continue to work is welcome, said Joe Kelly, president of King Soopers. Of course you said that. Of course you said that. Let me just say this. You don't respect your associates' rights to participate in a work stoppage. You really don't. Your actions, let me be clear. Your actions have said otherwise. Your actions have clearly stated that you do not respect your associates' rights, and you haven't for years because you've done this. You're interfering Okay, and you've done this shit in the last strike too. Quite frankly, you've never, for a long time, you have never respected your associates' rights, quite frankly. So that's a really disingenuous statement you're going to come out and make. We believe our associates would be better served if the union worked with us to reach an agreement that would not risk leaving our associates without a paycheck. Again, false statement. We are getting paid. We're not disrupting pay periods here. We are still getting paid. We're getting paid more than you pay us. We remain open to continuing to meet with the union to reach a resolution. Why haven't you made or scheduled a meeting then? Because no scheduled meetings have been made with the union. If you remain open, why aren't you willing to actively come back to the table? God, this whole thing is so fucking disingenuous. Oh my God. We will continue to follow the strike if it plays out in Colorado Springs and Pueblo. I've reached out to UFCW Local 7 to learn more about if Pueblo and Colorado Springs workers will be involved when the strikes begin Thursday. This article will be updated once I hear back. And that last part is kind of dumb because that question's kind of already been answered. I guess I could respect the effort there. But that's it for this article. And it's so stupid. It's so these statements these responses that Joe's making is absolutely stupid. But let's move on to the next article. King Soopers responds after 10,000 Colorado grocery store workers plan to begin strike Thursday. Yeah, we've already gone through that. On Monday, a King Soopers spokesperson said they offered several wage proposals to its employees. But the union reportedly never responded with a wage proposal of their own. Of course they did. We've talked about this before. Of course they didn't, because you're withholding sales data. You're withholding staffing data. So the union can't respond because you're not giving them data to properly respond. So this statement is stupid because you're the ones interfering with it, with their ability to respond. God. By the way, this is coming out of KKTV, and good God, this is already not being well reported. King Soopers said the union reportedly refused to let its members vote on competitive wages, significant wage investments, or long-term investment. This is false, and I don't know why they keep running with this statement. We were given time. They were given time, adequate time, to review the contract and see if it's good or not. The union is communicating with the employees and its union members. And quite frankly, they are actually really trying to communicate with you guys too, but you're not cooperating. You're not responding. You're withholding information and data, and you're not showing up to meetings. We urge Local 7 to reconsider their approach and prioritize the best interest of our associates. You're not prioritizing the best interest of the associates. Local 7 is, actually. That's the whole point of this strike. Because all of the things that you're doing, most of the things that you're doing are illegal and unfair labor practices. The best interests of our associates, their members, and the communities they serve. Yeah, you don't do that either. A King Soopers spokesperson said, why do they keep running with this bullshit? It is time to put aside their unreasonable demands. What unreasonable demands? False rhetoric. Very not false rhetoric. And the very fact that you're even saying it's false rhetoric, you're basically saying that what we, the people and the employees, are saying is false and not true and shouldn't be listened to. Yeah, that's real telling. You'd love for us to be shut up, wouldn't you? False rhetoric and headline-seeking tactics, and work towards a fair and timely resolution that increases associates' pay while keeping groceries affordable, said Joe Kelly, president of King Soopers. Fuck you, Joe. for saying that shit. False rhetoric? Oh, so you think a shooting in Boulder is false rhetoric? Oh, you think a homicide at your store 98 in Colorado Springs is false rhetoric and a headline seeking tactic? Really? And you call us not serving the community when you're over here saying shit like this that is absolutely disrespectful to not only your employees, but Coloradans and to the state of Colorado as a whole, because you're proving that you are not willing to properly guard and protect your stores and the people that work there and the people that shop there. You call that false rhetoric and headline seeking tactics? You're going to sit here and make claims like this and not actually talk about stuff like that? Fuck you, Joe. We want to make a fair investment in our union associates, and this work stoppage only further delays adding more money to their paychecks. Then why the hell are you withholding information? Why the hell are you not actively coming back to the table? Why you, Joe Kelly, have not attended a single bargaining meeting? If it's so important to you, why are you not making proper across the board investments to people if you're going to sit here and talk about fair investments to the union associates? This is such disingenuous and misinformation that is being pushed around by KKTV here, and it's absolutely ridiculous that they even let this shit into their article, and they should be ashamed of themselves, because all of this shit is false information. It's bullshit, and it's very disingenuous. On Friday, after the strike authorization vote passed, King Soopers leadership said in a statement that the National Labor Relations Board has not determined King Soopers is committed an unfair labor practice during these negotiations. We've gone through that already, and we've already determined that is a very bullshit statement. So that's it for this article. We're going to move on to the next article. This is the main one. This is the last article. This is the main one I've been waiting to cover. Shout out to my mom, who actually sent me this particular article. And I think it's gold, because there's so much stuff that is said in here that is batshit insane and is outrageous. Let's get into it. This is coming out of Supermarket News. The headline already is crazy. King Soopers holding a picket line is totally unnecessary. Oh, really? Territory president in Colorado says the grocer's final offer is worth it for workers. Union files more unfair labor charges leading up to Thursday strike. This was, let me point out that this was released yesterday. And this was done and written by Bill Wilson, a senior editor at Supermarket News. Clearly, Mr. Bill here is heavily biased towards Kings, and you're going to see in this article. And he's probably a company plant. So, but let's let's get into it. There are no scheduled negotiation meetings this week between the two sides. As King Soopers and city market workers in Colorado prepare to strike on Thursday, King Soopers division president Joe Kelly sees one similarity to the 10-day strike back in 2022. It will cost the workers. No, it will not. We have gone over this already. No, it won't. I don't know why he keeps pushing this shit, but it won't. In 2022, according to Kelly, the original contract proposal from the Kroger-owned grocer was some $18 million more than what was agreed upon to get workers back on the job. At that time, the contract was labeled historic by the union and included a $5.99 per hour wage increase. Not all at once, it was across the board. And what I mean by across the board is it was across the next 3 years, and it was not across the board. I have a copy of that contract, and we will be going over that Monday. So keep out your eyes peeled for a Monday video where we compare the the two contracts here. But that that is some kind of sort of not true, but we're going to go over it. But that kind of deal hasn't manifested this time around. It absolutely has not. This time around, Kelly is calling out what he says are false claims by the union regarding staffing issues. That is such bullshit. That is not a false claim. And by the way, the union is not the only one that is claiming that. I have seen it firsthand, and we have talked about it here on this channel. It is not a false claim. It is not a false story. It is not some kind of hoax or something. No, it is real. The staffing issues are very, very, very real. I've had customers complain about it. Okay? Like, it's... In fact, answer me this, Joe Kelly. Why the fuck do you have and invested in all of your stores having 8, 9, 10, 12 checkout lanes when on a daily basis, all of them are never used? At most, maybe 2 or 3 of them are used at a time. Even on busy days, maybe 4 or 5 are used. Maybe when the store's getting slammed, but not every single one of the checkout lanes are ever being used. I have never seen that happen in a King Soopers for as long as I've worked with the company. Quite literally, I've never seen that happen. And you want to sit here and say there's staffing issues? Healthcare and regarding staffing issues, healthcare and wages. Yeah, those are not false claims. He also says he has yet to receive a staffing proposal from the United Food and Commercial Workers, which is UFCW. Yeah, and again, we've gone over this already. Of course, you haven't received one because you're not giving the proper data to formulate one. UFCW Local 7's Kim Cordova says those claims aren't false at all. They're absolutely not. And that these are all very real issues affecting King Soopers workers and have been very real issues for years. For years now. The workers at the Kroger-owned grocery chain represent 77 markets throughout the... Yeah, we've seen that. My concern is the hardships a strike causes the workers. They don't get paychecks. What? Joe, for the love of God, can you go 1 second without lying? Why do you keep pushing this narrative? It's not true. We get paid. We've broken this down on this channel. Those strikers get paid more money than you give them. The stress it puts on them and their families. Standing out on the sidewalk holding a picket line is totally unnecessary. Let it be known what Joe is saying here, basically. Let me translate. Let me translate what Joe's really saying here. He doesn't want your voice to be heard. He doesn't respect your rights. And quite frankly, he just wants you to gobble down their last, best, and final offer without questioning it. That's the translation of what he's saying here. The stress it puts on them. Dude, I wasn't stressed about a lot of things when I went on strike back in 2022. I was slightly concerned about, at the beginning, let me correct. At the beginning, I was stressed about the money aspect of it. I was like, oh man, am I going to be able to even keep paying my rent and getting food? But then as soon as I found out that we were getting paid and we were getting paid more money, I didn't care about that anymore. So there wasn't anything else I was concerned about. In fact, the only stress that this strike puts on workers and their families is something that I've talked about before on this channel, but I'm going to talk about it again right now. The only kind of stress that it actually brings is whether or not when the strike's over, whether or not we were going to have a job to come back to or not. Because you, Joe Kelly, like to try to find ways to retaliate against people who have struck and who have participated in the strike against you in your company. And you're going to spend this time most likely training and probably making a game plan with all of your store management workers to find any little reason to fire anybody who has participated in the strike. That is where the real stress comes in. That is what we should all be concerned about, is how the company is going to retaliate after this. Otherwise, there's not much else to stress about here. And quite frankly, yes, it is brutal standing out on sidewalks and picketing and stuff, especially on some of the days where it drops down to really low temperatures. But it's worth it. We're getting paid for it. We're getting supported and fed fairly well out there, actually. And also, we get breaks. So don't worry your little head about us. You know? We think it's necessary. Why don't you ask the 100% of the people who voted yes to strike against you if they're stressed about this? Cordova added that she believes it makes sense for her members who have authorized a strike due to what they claim are unfair labor practices. Absolutely. Kelly is also accusing the union of not allowing its members to vote on King Soopers' final offer. We've gone through this already. Yes, they are. And I don't know why he keeps running with that, because that is not fucking true. Which was laid on the negotiation table in early January. Cordova says the reason the union hasn't voted yet is that the offer is unlawful. I've said this before. I'll say it again. It absolutely is unlawful. And guys, do not vote for it. Don't accept this shit, because there's a lot of things in it that are illegal. That's why we've gone over it here on this channel, to show you how illegal it is. And that it pertains to taking money from a worker's retirement fund to pay for an increase in wages. Another reason why I'm really mad that Supermarket News here didn't add this in. But another reason why that the union hasn't voted yet on the offer is because they can't, because they don't have a counter offer of their own to compare it to. And the reason why they don't have a counter offer is because Kings, Joe, you're withholding information to allow the union to properly formulate a counter offer. Not that hard to figure out. That is not that hard to understand. As for staffing levels, Kelly says the grocer continues to hire every day. Well, why the fuck are all 12 of your checkout lanes not manned then? Why is your turnover rate still high? Both part-time and full-time, and that worker turnover is the lowest King Soopers has experienced in over 4 years. I don't believe that for one fucking minute. But even if that is true, I guarantee you, I bet money that your turnover rate percentage is still over 70%. Which is a problem, Joe. Which is a problem. Additionally, Kelly has asked the union for a staffing proposal, but is yet to receive one because you're not giving staffing information. How many times do we have to say this on this channel? How many times do we have to debunk this stupid fucking story that Joe keeps pushing here? I don't know why he keeps pushing this. You're not giving up the data. Release the data. Give up the data. Stop ignoring the data. Cordova says that in order to put together a staffing proposal, other elements must be finalized. We've talked about this. This is why they're not doing this, because they can't, especially wages, which have not happened. Joe, hello? Wake the fuck up. The union leader also disputes Kelly's claim that all stores are adequately staffed. Because it's true, they're not adequately staffed. Ask us. Ask the workers. Ask us. We'll tell you in a heartbeat, yeah, we're getting fucking overworked. They're getting overworked. In fact, staffing hours have decreased by 18%. This is why the data is necessary. Bring the data here. And here's another thing I want to point out about this too. This is something I've noticed and I find very fascinating. I've noticed in all these news reports and all these statements that Joe's making, he hasn't once debunked that 18% decrease in staff claim that Kim has been talking about multiple times. He's quick to just say the staffing issue is a lie and the wage increase is a lie. He's quick to say that. But what I've noticed is that he has not once refuted or rebutted this 18% claim. And if he hasn't debunked that, that's pretty telling, I'd say. That's pretty telling. So why not release the staffing data then? Why aren't you doing that to debunk this? Why aren't you doing that? The staffing issue is real, and it's an issue that workers want addressed. Abso-fucking-lutely. Hell, I want it to be addressed, and I don't even work for King Soopers. And there's a bunch of other shit that needs to be addressed too. Come on, man. King Soopers is offering $4, and yep, we've gone over that. But wages remain another area where the two sides appear to be miles apart on. Yeah, for damn good reason too. The union insists the wage increases will not cover everyone at the grocery store. It won't. Kelly, however, says it will. Well then why do you keep saying top workers? Why do you keep wording it in a way that it doesn't cover everybody? And you know what? I'm going to hold my anger on this because we're going to go over the contract. We're going to see. Monday. When asked if it would apply to cashiers and those who stock the shelves, the territory president said everyone is going to get a raise. Yeah, but it's not a good enough raise, dude. It's not a good enough raise. People are still going to be struggling massively to see if they can even buy food for themselves, to see if they can even shop in the store that they're working for. But that wage increase uses an illegal tactic, according to the union, which fears that King Soopers will stop making contributions to workers' retirement funds and will instead use that money to cover the hourly wage, which they are. And that's not false information. Kelly denies any shifting of funds or changes in contributions. Then why the hell have you blatantly stated in previous news reports from your own words that the contract is asking employees to increase the amount of deductions that they require to put into the healthcare fund? Why is that a thing? Because you're siphoning from it to increase wages. Which, by the way, this is something I haven't pointed out before, but I'm going to point out here. By the way, if they're asking people to dump more money into the healthcare benefits while at the same time siphoning from it to increase wage increases, that tactic is a big fallacy. This is another reason why the contract is fucking terrible, because you're basically negating your own wage increases if you're going to then in turn siphon from the health benefit, which in turn you're going to ask people to put more money into. So it's just one giant waste of fucking time. Hello. God, it's This is so disingenuous. God, Joe pisses me off. In the latest contract proposal, King Soopers is asking employees to contribute $29 a week for health insurance, an increase from $26 a week in the previous contract. See, this is what I'm talking about. So it's just one big fallacy. Kelly says the average Colorado family pays $133.50 a week for health insurance. And actually, there's quite a few people who would probably pay more than that because your health benefits are bullshit. King Soopers claims it has shared its final offer with associates because the union has failed to put it up for a vote because you're withholding information. We're hearing an awful lot from our stores that they want to vote on it. I highly doubt that. Go look at the numbers that we've covered. Go look at the percentage of how many people have voted yes. This is disingenuous here. And they've contacted the union to allow them to vote, he said. But unfortunately, there is a different agenda as to why the union is not allowing them to vote. And it doesn't make sense. A different agenda. Oh my God. Dude, there is no agenda. Joe, I don't know if you're sober enough to know this, but when strike votes are held, we the people, the workers, are voting for it. There's no agenda. There's no agenda, dude. Just the information is laid out on the table. And by the way, they're given ample time to see your offers. And we take time to take these information home, sleep on it, and actually determine whether or not it's worth it or not. And guess what? On average, 95 or 96% of workers have voted that your offers and your claims, your approach, your tactics are bullshit and they're inadequate and they're not good enough. What about that doesn't make sense? You're in denial, dude, and you're really trying to play this narrative that's bullshit, and that's false, and that's a lie. And that's why I'm here to shoot your shit down and make it clear to people that this shit is not true. There are no scheduled negotiation meetings this week between the two sides. Gee, I wonder why. Cordova points to the 96% strike approval rate. I do too. As reason enough to move forward with this work stoppage. Abso-fucking-lutely. The strike, which is scheduled to begin Thursday, is set to last 14 days, but could be extended if necessary. Meanwhile, the union has filed additional unfair labor charges against King Soopers. If they continue to violate the law, we can strike again, said Cordova. Kroger's proposing these types of proposals around the country, and they are going to have labor unrest if they continue to move in this direction. There is no reason to attack their associates. And might I add, there is no reason to enforce or to engage in illegal activity. This was a good article, man, but also you could tell Mr. Bill here is definitely on King's side because he's just highlighting a bunch of unfair shit. The only thing that I will give him credit for is that he actually included Cordova's responses to these bullshit claims. Otherwise, most of this article is just hoisting Joe up on a fucking pedestal with all of these disingenuous bullshit statements. Well, that ends the special report here. I want to real quick before I end the video out, I do want to get to what I've been mentioning throughout this video that I wanted to talk about. Yes, now that the strike is confirmed and will be happening, yes. In case you guys are wondering, you're going to see me out there. You're going to see me out there. The details are a little, I'm kind of playing it by ear and I'm kind of just, flying off my pants here because so many things are moving fast. But yes, I will be visiting a lot of stores. I have plans to visit a lot of stores tomorrow throughout the day. And I will also be visiting stores Friday as well. I'm going to be out there with you guys. I'm going to be out there interviewing people. I'm going to be live streaming it. I'm going to be live streaming it on Facebook, and then I will repost a replay of those live streams here on the channel. So you will get to see it live through Facebook, but then you will be able to watch the replay of it. And it might be a little edited. I don't know. We'll see. Honestly, I haven't decided if I'm going to have the replays edited down in the channel, or if I'm just going to keep them raw in its entirety. I might just keep it raw, honestly. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I'm going to be out there. I'm going to be out there at different times. I'm going to be out there at different locations because I want to live stream the strike, and I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear from you. I want to ask you guys questions. I will have questions prepared because there are very specific questions I want to ask, and I want things to be made clear throughout this strike to the people, to the union, and to Kings. And I want to actually help. I also want to help create a voice of the workers, of the people that's not being addressed. Okay. And that is exactly, I've mentioned this before, but that is exactly what people want to see changed. What exactly we want from the company, what we're complaining about, what we're frustrated about, what we're mad about, what we want done, what we want seen. That's something that I really think needs to be done a little bit more this time around. And I want to do my part in contributing and helping to establish that kind of voice. Because while the union is giving us helping to give us a voice, there's still a little pocket that's not being addressed. And that pocket also needs a voice. And so I'm going to be trying to do that. So yes, you will be seeing me out there with you guys. I will be visiting multiple stores. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to visit every single store, but I will be hitting up some stores. And you're going to hear it here first, here in this video. The first store that I'm hitting up tomorrow is store 72. Of course, I gotta hit up 72 because as I've talked about before on this channel, and as maybe some of you may know, I am a former employee of Kings and I used to work at store 72. So of course I gotta make a grand epic return to my former home store and chill with some of my former employees and some of my former coworkers. A lot of them don't work there anymore, but some of them are still kicking around. And hey, man, you're going to see me out there. You're going to see me out there. It's going to be cool to see you guys again. And I'm sure it's probably going to be cool to see me again in a setting like this because a lot of things have changed. But yes, I will be at store 72. What time? Honestly, I don't know. I really don't know at currently as the recording of this video. I really don't know. We'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. It'll be sometime tomorrow. I will say this, it definitely won't be early in the morning. It will not be in the morning, but we'll see. We'll see what time. I will try to give some kind of heads up, probably on Facebook. I'll try to, or either on Facebook, or I'll put it in the community tab. I'll make a post about it here on the Facebook channel, or not on the Facebook, on the YouTube channel. I'll make a post about it. I'll try to give some kind of heads up to be like, hey, I'm going to be there within the next hour, 2 hour, whatever. I'll try to, but we'll see. We'll see. So store 72, if anybody watches this from 72, be ready to be on camera. Be ready to be on camera. You don't have to be. Hey, to be clear, you don't have to be. If you don't want to be interviewed, you're more than willing not to be. You feel free to reject it. I'm not going to come up and force people to ask questions and be on camera and be in the live stream and stuff. But if you want to, you can. And if you don't want to, you don't have to. No hard feelings. That's okay. You don't have to. I'm not forcing anything. But that, let it be known that is the goal. Okay, that is the goal of the live streams, and I'm going to be start doing these live streams regularly now that the strike has been announced and it's officially happening and it's starting. I'm going to be out there and I'm going to be trying to be doing these consistently. Obviously I have my own life to attend to. I have my own job that I got to go do. So I'm not going to be able to do this every single day of the strike. I wish I could, but I'm not going to be able to do this every single day of the strike. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be out there every day. Honestly, I can tell you right now, I'm only going to be able to be out there and visit stores obviously tomorrow, Friday, and then I won't be able to be out there again until next Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So I'm only going to have 5 days, to be honest. Full transparency here. I'm only going to have 5 days that I'm going to be able to do live streams because I got my own stuff that I got to deal with. There's other projects that I'm working on too, and I have a job. I have a day job, so unfortunately I'm not going to be available to stop by and and do these things. Maybe one of the days that I work, I might be able to stop by for a minute, but it's not going to be a live stream. I'm not going to be able to post anything about it. And I'm not making a promise on that because that's highly unlikely that I'm going to be able to do that anyways. So it is an idea, but I don't think that's going to be able to be done. But yeah, that's it. That's it for this special report video. God, there was a lot to go over. There was a lot that happened. Some pretty crazy things happened in this video for sure. But that's it. I will see you guys out there on the lines. I'm going to be out there with you. I'm going to keep doing reports. I'm going to keep pumping out videos. I'm going to start doing live streams. There's going to be a lot more content coming. A lot more posts are going to be made on the YouTube channel. There's going to be a lot more stuff. And so I will see you guys out there. And remember, when you're out there, let the truth speak. I will see you guys out there.